The Fimi Palm. It looks familiar, but is it a perfect copy or a pocket full of problems? This pocket-sized gimbal cam is made by Chinese company Xiaomi under their brand Fimi, and it's a copy of, inspired by the DJI Osmo Pocket. It has many similarities, but some very significant differences. Today I'm going to focus just on the Fimi Palm and review it in its own right, but my next video will be a side-by-side comparison between this and the Osmo Pocket, so you might want to subscribe if that's something you want to see. First of all, build quality. The body is plastic apart from this piece, which is metal. The body creaks a little bit when squeezed and doesn't feel overly premium, but for everything this camera can do and how little it costs, I can easily forgive that. It has a 1.22-inch 240 by 240 touchscreen display that's bright enough for use in bright sunlight. The back is textured but not rubberized, so it's a little slippery. But to make up for that, there's a lanyard hole, which I love because I'm terrified of dropping it. The bottom is flat and rubberized for standing on a table, but after one day, mine started to peel up a little bit around the USB-C port and needed to be pushed back in. It doesn't come with a protective case, but it does have this plastic cover for the gimbal. It feels cheap and has rough edges, and while it does protect the lens, it doesn't protect much else. I think they could have done better here. A hugely welcome addition is the metal 1/4-inch socket. This lets me put it on a selfie stick for low down shots or a tripod without additional hardware. I really like that. Another very welcome addition is the built-in pan and tilt joystick. This is amazing and I love it, but I wish it had progressive control so I could change the speed of the tilt while I'm filming. But on something this small, I'll gladly take any control I can get. The record button is also the on-off button and also the gimbal recenter button. I don't love that, but once I got used to it, it hasn't really been a problem. The main selling point of this camera is the built-in gimbal, which gives you mechanical stabilization. At least for now, mechanical stabilization provides better results than the digital stabilization you find on cameras like the GoPro Hero 8 and the Osmo Action, especially in lower light, where those cameras produce a smudgy, blurry image when there's movement. The lens is an f2.4 fixed focus lens, so everything's in focus all the time. You'll never have an out of focus shot, but you won't be able to get any background blur, so cinematic looking shots will be harder to achieve. Where this stands out among the Osmo Pocket and its other copycats is that this has an ultra wide lens, and for me that's the best thing about this by far. Being so wide makes it the only pocket gimbal camera out there, at least for me, that's really suitable for vlogging, because it fits a lot of your surroundings into the frame. It also lets you create some pretty cool first-person perspective shots. It can record in 4K 30, 2K 60, and everything below. And the video quality is really good. Details are sharp and dynamic range is good for such a small sensor. I'm quite impressed. Colors are pretty good, but I find it likes to lean more towards the cold side. It isn't very true to life, whereas I prefer a warmer, more realistic color tone. The widest view is seen when using 30 frames per second. In 60 frames per second, you lose some field of view, which is unfortunate. If you don't like the ultra-wide action camera look, you can switch to narrow, which uses less of the sensor and gives a somewhat more natural field of view, but you can only record in 1080p 30. There's also a super scope view, but that's basically just the same as ultra-wide, but with the top and bottom chopped off, so I don't really see the point of using that. And if I try to use the joystick while in super scope mode, it's all stuttery, so yeah, super scope mode is no good. I'm trying to pan across, and it's getting stuck. It's stopping and starting. The gimbal is actually jerking across. It has two color modes, natural, which is slightly sharper and more colorful, and a sort of log mode, which is flatter and should allow a bit more flexibility when editing. It can do 4 times or 8 times slow motion, and if you're new to slow motion, that's going to be a lot of fun, but to be honest, I was pretty disappointed with the quality. For me, it's not really usable, not even for social media. It's grainy and the compression kind of ruins it. It just looks bad. It can shoot panoramas, except for some reason mine can't. I don't know if it's a problem with the latest firmware or what, but when I try to take panorama shots, it takes all the individual shots and then it's supposed to output a file with all those shots stitched together, but mine just outputs the top left image every time. So that feature is a no-go. Is anyone else having this problem? Another slight disappointment is with the gimbal itself. It's just not as reliable and refined as the Osmo Pocket's gimbal. Sometimes I turn it on and the gimbal freaks out and then turns itself off. It loses the horizon more often than I'd prefer, and again, the gimbal just does weird things sometimes and freaks me out. And the motors sometimes overheat and have to cool down before the camera can be used again. That's only happened once in the 2 weeks I've been using this, but it was worth mentioning. Something I absolutely love is the built-in Wi-Fi. Hallelujah. No more Wi-Fi module to plug into the bottom. It's all built in and ready to go. The app is easy to figure out and allows control over most things, but not manual exposure for some reason. You'll have to change the shutter speed on the camera before you connect to your phone. What I don't like is that when connected to the app, if I tilt the camera too far down, the app freezes and then flips the image upside down. Now, I understand that the camera needs to know when it's hanging upside down, so it's the right way up when you export it, but flipping the image upside down on my phone makes no sense. This is stupid, and freezing when it does that is annoying. Having the built-in joystick is brilliant for making quick corrections, and although the speed can't be adjusted when in use, you can go into the menu and choose from one of 10 speeds. What's a bit disappointing though is that most of the time, panning only works when the camera is held almost upright, and that's not how I usually hold cameras like this when I'm filming things. I hold them forward and at an angle like this, but the left and right joystick inputs won't work when it's like this. It's the same story when switching between front-facing and selfie mode. The camera has to be mostly upright, or it either won't flip around, or the gimbal will freak out and start doing weird stuff. That's annoying, and it just comes down to the gimbal programming not being that refined. It still needs work. As well as panning and tilting, the joystick doubles as a control for the 3x digital zoom. I'm normally not a fan of digital zoom as it ruins the image quality, but this actually does a pretty decent job. Still image quality is fine, it's about what I expect from a modern action camera. Saturation is maybe a little unrealistic, but it's a pretty nice result for just pointing and pressing a button. And of course the gimbal takes care of any shaky hands, so you get a crisp image. Low light performance is really good for a sensor this size. Having the sensor and lens on a mechanical gimbal allows the shutter to slow down a bit and let more light in without the image blurring too much. Current digital stabilization would not be able to cope with this kind of environment, and it would produce an unusable result. It's conditions like this where mechanical gimbals far outshine digital, especially when it comes to small sensors. So, all things considered, what do I think of the Fimi Palm, and does it have a place in my camera bag? Well, look, it has a few issues, more than I would have liked. Panorama doesn't work, at least not on mine. The gimbal needs a bit more refinement. The app flips things upside down, and the slow motion quality is basically unusable. But for just filming 4K or 2.7K video of your day-to-day life, this works incredibly well. At the current sale price of only $180, and I've put some links below to that, you're getting a pocket-sized mechanically stabilized camera with really good video quality and an ultra-wide field of view, which I absolutely love and is perfect for vlogging. You get a built-in joystick and Wi-Fi. It has face tracking, which works amazingly well, maybe even better than the Osmo. It does time-lapse and hyperlapse, so you can get those cool B-roll shots with barely any effort. There's a tripod socket, a lanyard hole, and the battery life is epic. So for the price, it's amazing, and I'm giving this a pretty big thumbs up. I have my fingers crossed that Fimi will fix the issues I came across with future firmware updates, but even if they don't, I'm glad I have this, if it's just for that nice, sharp, ultra-wide lens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.